Hello, welcome to the People Profit Podcast, the show where we flip the script on traditional business thinking and prove that when you put people first, profits follow. I'm Sandra Coker, your guide on this journey to more engaged teams, loyal customers, and a healthier bottom line. These episodes are brought to you by Human Power Solutions, helping organizations unlock the human potential that powers performance. Whether you're a leader, an HR pro, or a curious change maker, buckle up. We're diving into fresh stories, real-world strategies, and a few laughs along the way. Ready to turn your workplace into a profit-powered people machine? Let's get started. Welcome to the People Profit Podcast, where we flip the script on business success by putting people first. Because as my book says, the best way to boost your bottom line is to invest in those above it. I'm your host, Sandra Coker, CEO of Human Power Solutions, and today we're in for a treat that's equal parts insightful and downright fun. Our guest today is the one, the only Robbie Law. He is a rock star presenter, speaker coach, and the managing director at mastermind.com. Yes, I said mastermind.com. Super excited to have him here. With nearly 25 years under his belt and over 5,000 live events, that's more stages than most of us have coffee breaks. Robbie helps experts and entrepreneurs communicate with clarity, confidence, and with that all-important authenticity. Today, we're chatting about leadership philosophy in today's wild workplace, team dynamics, decision-making, navigating change, and why emotional intelligence isn't just buzzword bingo. It's the secret sauce for employee success and organizational wins. Robbie, welcome to the show. I'm so pumped to have you here.
Wow, this is so cool. Thank you so much, Sandra, for having me on. This is going to be a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So you and I met last November, maybe, when I joined Mastermind. I joined
a year ago.
Yeah. And at first I met Robbie, I was like, oh, this is a little scary. But as we... but over the last year, I've gotten to know him, and I'm just super excited to share his story and his wisdom with all of you out there. So I'd love for you to kind of start at the beginning, or should I say the baseball field. You mentioned learning leadership from your dad during all your baseball games. Can you walk us through that? And how did all those on-field lessons shape your approach to leading teams today?
Oh, man, thank you. I love thinking back to my childhood and thinking about baseball because I was just one of the other guys. I was just a player on the field, but I came from, baseball elite. My grandfather won a Cy Young Award in 1960. And so that kind of shaped my belief that I could go out and conquer the whole world because my grandpa sure did. And so, we had kind of wore that as a badge of honor for the moment I woke up in life. And so my dad, really instilled just principles that helped create advancement and growth. And I think the biggest thing that my dad taught me through leadership is, learning how to practice the tough things so that you can make those things better in your life. And he made that such a standard in our family and in our life that, all the things that I ever felt like I needed to improve, I had a path. I just knew I needed to practice those things. And so that was probably the key takeaway that my dad gave me. But as far as his leadership, that what I got from him is a very quiet leader. And he was someone I didn't want to disappoint, not because I felt like I was going to get reprimanded, but because I wanted to do great for him.
I love that.
For him. It was like I'd see him down on third base and I was like, I wanted to do well. And he always taught me be the example on the team and you'll make everyone around you better. So even though I was the smallest kid and, I was trying to, make my name with a name on my back that my friends, everybody knew my grandpa and my uncle were professional baseball players. And so I felt like I had a lot to live up to. And what that really accounted for is I wasn't always the best player, but I felt like I had the best attitude. I was being the most positive. I was cheering the team on. I was running to my position. I was hustling. I was doing all the little things. And that really created leadership for me. And, I typically found myself on the captain's roster of most of the teams that I was on not because I was the better player, but because I had the best attitude, you know. And I feel like I got that one from my mom. My mom really taught me a great attitude, but my dad showed me those are some of those main leadership principles that you want to learn. And that's, you know, kind of what I got from the ball field.
So there's gold right there. Like when we talk to our executive teams and our CEOs, and we're like, don't promote the people with the best talent. Promote the people that have the best people skills, right? Get things done. So that's gold right there. Can you share a moment where, you know, where you kind of struck out, you know, where you made some mistakes, but it turned into leadership goals? Like just
Yeah. Are you thinking like when I was younger, or you want to, you know,
yeah, when
talk
you
about
started.
my leadership journey
Yeah,
early on?
yeah, early on.
Yeah. So, you know, I can think of so many because I was kind of the kid, and this is not like the thing that you love to bring up, but I was kind of the kid that couldn't control his emotion. I took it so serious that if I didn't do well, I'd tear up and I'd fight that, you know? And so I remember one game getting real upset and, you know, losing my cool, and my dad walking over and going, you know, you're representing this team, and you're representing me as your father. And the way that was not the way that I've taught you. And there's a better approach. And he said, if you want to keep playing on this team, you're going to make changes. Now I come here to coach, and I'm here for you, but I'm also here for the rest of these players. So you need to make sure that you set a better example in the future.
I guess I'll never play golf with your dad.
But you know, it was fun because I straightened up. I definitely was on. It was on my mind from that point forward. I remember I was 11 years old, and then from that point forward, it was no messing around. I was going to be on that field, doing the very best to represent what my value system was, because my dad wasn't going to let me fall short of that.
I love that. I love that. But especially at an early age, it's so important. Those key learnings that kind of get ingrained in you. And, you know, you've built a pretty incredible career, from events to coaching big names like Ryan Pineda and obviously us folks at mastermind.com. What's one, I'm sure you have many, but what's one aha moment from your 5,000 plus events that you made you realize that leadership isn't just about being the boss, it's about creating environments where people thrive?
You know, I feel like there's been times you know, Nate Harris.
Yeah.
Nate's a good friend of mine, and he was kind of, I call him like my first coaching student, because he's the first one that kind of, we had spent a lot of time working together. I felt like his mentor a little bit, and I was still, this was probably 2011 about when we were having this discussion, him and I. And when I saw him take what was an example of myself and my mentor, Andy, and some of the other speakers that we've worked with, and make it his own on stage, and realize that he was utilizing a lot of what he had seen, which means that someone had to set an example for him.
Right.
But he'd also, you know, he'd grown through the concepts that we had, you know, taught him, so that it was like, I now looked at him and went, I can now I can really learn from him. Not now, but I can learn from him.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing, is I really believe in duplication, and that when a good thing is good, you help others do it, and you duplicate that goodness, you know?
Yeah.
And it's been fun to see that that's not just a thing that we talked about when we were kids, you know, my 20s and 30s. I felt like I could conquer the world and stuff, and I was doing all that. But I look back and go, man, those things that we really did drive home, they became leadership principles for us later in life, just like my mentor taught me and his mentor taught him, and all the way through. And it's like this silly thing that we try to hand off and go, I promise this is going to work for you. And then 18 months later or 5 years later, it clicks for somebody.
Yeah.
That's the leadership moment that I love, because that means that someone also fought through the toughness to get to the point where it did click for them. And that's that practice of being willing to just go and keep going. Because you know, as a speaker coach, I've seen everybody be a good speaker. Any person, any type has become a good speaker that's actually wanted it.
Right.
And I love that, you know, that is something that I've been able to experience a decade later, and see Nate and go, what a leader he is, you know. But I also see that some of those qualities came from, you know, what we had done.
But yeah, and I know Nate. Well, I don't know him as a person, but I've experienced a couple of his workshops, and we're not going to plug Nate, but we are going to put his link down below because
Nate doesn't have any links, I promise you, dude. Dude, he lives in a cave. He's got his long hair. He doesn't live in a cave. That's the silly joke that we have because we're high school friends.
yeah,
Nate is surfing or with his family, or he's on stage sharing from the heart, and he's one of the greatest people on the planet.
yeah, he's made me cry so many times in a good way. I really enjoy him. And so you talked, just in that little blurb, I'm constantly talking to young leaders about the importance of having a mentor. I've had mentors throughout my whole career. As I'm leveling up now in my business and my career, I've picked a couple of other mentors that are helping me kind of get to the next level. Can you talk to the younger leaders, that are listening today about why it's so important to identify someone to kind of help them, throughout their journey?
Because I really feel like there's two ways to learn. You learn through like doing it yourself, or you learn through what other people did and you get their experience, and it's like this proxy learning process. So it's like you got one or two choices. So do you want to go learn the hard stuff and take a long time to do it? Because you can go through and you're going to fumble through a lot of stuff, and I promise you there's tons of benefit to that. There really is. And I believe in mastery, and I think that's how you get there, is you go and do that. But if you want to speed it up, go, what's the patterns, like Tony talks about, like what are the patterns and what are the things they do, and then just go, I'm going to model. And modeling became my thing because my mentor is like the perfect linguist. Like he can wordsmith anything on the fly. His name's Andy Tanner, and Andy is just like so good at wordsmithing anything. I couldn't like get all the way there because I wasn't like that guy. My processor didn't work the same. I had to kind of develop it. But I did know that if I took little pieces of what he did, that I could use those little pieces and I could go, okay, well I can try in that direction. And the more I do that, the more reps I get. I mean, 5,000 events. Do you have any idea how lucky I am that I have that life experience?
That's amazing.
In this place of like, that's 8 to 10 speeches a week for 12 years, and so I'm sitting here going out doing these things, but I'm getting practice.
Yeah.
So I took the model and just applied that model. And so I think that's really true for anything we want to do in life. So I think the mentor model is way better than like go crush it on your own. It's also way more lonely.
Yeah, it really is. And that's why it's so, I just think it's so key. The one thing I noticed about, joining the Edge with Mastermind, and just, you always think about like you're modeling, you're learning, you're duplicating and all of those things. But there is a heart-centered servant attitude that's within that particular group. And I've been in a lot of different groups. I've been with a lot of different people. Why do you think, what's the magic in being heart-centered? Why is that such a successful and leadership capability? Because I think it is you have to have that in leadership these days.
Oh man, you're like so spot on. And I can first of all tell you exactly why our group is that way. We do that. We attract like attracts like. And, we're led by Dean Graziosi. He is the best heart-centered entrepreneur that I know. He's like, his love and care to have you get it and have you understand your value is like so deep that it just filters all the way through our whole organization. And so that's that. But the reason I think it's so important is because love is a language we can all speak. What I love about the Edge is we got Chris that's from another country, from Austria, I believe. We've got, Evo lives down in Costa Rica, but he's German.
Right.
We've got every language and nationality and every, continent basically covered. And one thing that we sometimes struggle with is like when we're in messaging, we're trying to be very precise with our language to our ideal clients, and our ideal client speaking a different language. Sometimes it's tough.
Yeah.
But the language that every one of them can understand, no matter what words we're using, is the language of love. And that's led with our heart. And that's a vibration and a frequency that's an actual real thing that we can measure, that we have an electromagnetic pulse coming from our heart. People can feel it, man.
Yeah.
I know that because I feel as a speaker. I got so many reps on stage to go, didn't get it, didn't like it, didn't work, didn't love it. The more I led with this, the more I connected. The more I led with this, or with like, the ego or any of that,
Right.
I lost value. But when I was leading with this, everybody gained. So that's why I think it's so important, because everybody can benefit when we do that. It's not like a win-lose, it's a win-win.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. In your bio, too, I want to switch gears a little bit. You talk about surrounding yourself with trusting teams and put everyone in their genius zones. That's straight out of our playbook, because that's where do you fit? Where's your passion? And that's where you should be. Not to say you shouldn't learn other things, but that's where you're get a best quality of life. How has that mindset fueled your own growth, especially through tough times? Like you said, like navigating addiction or family challenges, feel free to, share what you're comfortable with, but,
Well, I've got to work with so many people, in speaking, you've got your event staff that you work with. Sometimes it's a revenue event, so you have like a sales staff you'll work with. Sometimes it's a training event, so you'll have a coaching staff or a training staff. Sometimes it's an event where you'll have a speaker roster where you get a bunch of other speakers that you get to work with. But there's always a bunch of different people around you. You're never like single. And so you have to get good at creating relationships quickly. And The Science of Likability is my favorite book for this, because it's like an 1.5 hour YouTube link. You go watch it. It's so good. But it talks about becoming friends by starting as friends, and like assuming friendship already. Okay. And I do that, and I go into each relationship going, we're going to be great, this is going to work well. I don't go in wondering, I hope it's like, I go in with that attitude, because I had to work with so many new people, and I had to then communicate with so many people. I'd go to a new hotel every single day. Right. New ballroom staff, new audio visual group, new engineer for the AC, new front desk to work with, new, banquet manager, like all of that stuff. And so it was creating good relationships, and then showing the people around you that you were willing to do that level of intensity towards those relationships so that they did too. Because what I found is, if I led by example, in the room, and I worked with the people correctly, then my team would start doing that, and then I would be able to exit the responsibility. So I learned duplication through example, to like, I'll go do the hard thing, I'll go lift that thing, I'll carry the boxes, I'll set the signs up, I'll take the trash out, I'll make sure the seats are straight, I'll make sure that the registration table is manned and I'm helping. I'll do everything. But I'm doing it now to show you how to do it well, because every one of those jobs, I knew I could do the very best. But I knew I wasn't the best in every seat on the bus, because if I did that, my life's set. Right. If I brought my buddy Sean in, who went to 4 different companies with me, we've done so much travel together. Like it just got to the point where our families didn't even know us, and him and I were just hanging out all the time. But I trusted him to just follow through, and we just created good systems all the time, because found that if we wanted to do this thing and enjoy ourselves, there were 3 things we had to do. We had to create good processes, we had to use technology to make it easy, and we had to have the right people there. And if we had the right people there, the technology and processes would eventually get figured out. But the people, and showing that example and having that there, that's what created all of it. So I constantly try and surround myself with people that I know are going to do the job well, and they'll do it self-driven. And as long as you give them the right opportunity with training and onboarding them, they'll go. And it's almost like an entrepreneur's mindset, trying to drive of like, you got to go. And when you do that and you find good people, I have one right now that I work with. Her name is Mars. Best operator I've ever had in 25 years. She's just like, nail every single thing. And you give her a task, and she's going to go crush that thing. And there's so much trust there that I can just pass it off and good to go. But it's all about the trust level you have, because when that trust is fragmented, it just takes longer, and people have to step into things they don't want to be doing. And So, as a leader, the first thing I do when I sit down with people is I say, what are the things you don't like to do about your job? Tell me all of them. I want to know every one of them, and then write them all out.
Yeah.
And let's figure out how we can one by one eliminate them, fix them, put them into a better system or operation. We should enjoy what we do.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean we get to shirk off the work.
Right.
Let's just learn how to, program that work, to really do well.
Yeah. So my producer's here and he hates working on ClickUp. So we worked on it so that he's laughing right now. Yeah, there's certain things, right? But we worked it out so that, he's one of his coworkers is helping him out, which is good.
Yeah.
So keeping him in his zone of genius, which I think is super important.
Yeah.
So I love that. So what happens when you're going through challenging times, right? And when you may not be at your best, like how do you kind of stay at the top of your game? And what kind of advice can we give to, our younger leaders that are coming in that are, may or may not be going through some difficult times?
First of all, we start a relationship and you're in a role where you've got management or leadership and you've got people that are going to depend on you.
Mm-hmm.
I think setting a standard at the very beginning of how you're going to operate and work together. If that's done, when this happens, because man, I have bad days. Like I got 2 teenagers and a 20-year-old in college. Okay. Been married for 23 years. My wife and I, have a beautiful, incredible relationship. And also we're married people that go through our struggles.
Right. Yep.
It impacts work.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to inform the people that I'm with that I also have a personal life and there's going to need to be boundaries.
Yeah.
So setting boundaries at the beginning and saying, sometimes this is what's going to happen. Here's what you can do in those situations to help me. That shows authenticity, but it doesn't put you in a position of pain and I'm not going to do something about it. It's saying, here's how you can be proactive to help me because I'm going to need help. And then in the future, when you're in that state and you're not doing that, how can we work together and get an idea from them on how, what helps them in those situations? So I guess the first thing is set that standard so it's easy to have that conversation. Set the boundaries so that there's an opportunity to talk about things that are work related and personal related at separate times. And, for me, having a good relationship with someone who I can lean into, because to me, not holding it in is a problem. You mentioned addiction because I put that in my thing. I had an opiate addiction for 6 years. I've been clean for 16, so all good. But that journey taught me not to be the guy that just puts it all inside and doesn't get help, because I suffered for 6 years with something I didn't understand because I wasn't asking anybody for help. Nobody knew. And so for me to just, hold that in, it's not helpful. So learn how to have an outlet so that it doesn't affect you, long term. And then like Tony says, just state change, because like we get in our own head and it's not as bad as we make it most of the time. It's just,
Yeah. I mean, our last mastermind for me was a game changer, as we've talked about, and it was a mental game changer. And I think that's a big thing for people, is really to not avoid what's going on and just head on and be open to having discussions. But for young leaders, one of the things that we recommend is sometimes they're uncomfortable with that. So we put in a range, a scale, a 1 through 10. So when they come in to work in the morning with their direct reports, hey, how's your day? 1 through 10. And they give them a 1 through 10. So if they're a 2, okay, whatever you need for our support, we're going to help you. If they're 9, okay, well, we're good to go. We're just going to rock the day. It's not intrusive, but it's a way to kind of gauge what's, where people are that day.
That's golden to do that check-in in the morning. What a great idea. I'd love to get actually more detail on that. So you should tell me how to get access to that, because like at Mastermind, we'd love to have some additional stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool. I definitely will, for sure.
Running a business is hard. Developing your people shouldn't be. At Human Power Solutions, we act as your outsourced chief learning officer, designing custom learning and development experiences that actually move the needle. No fluff, no cookie cutter workshops, just results. Whether your people need better communication, stronger leadership, or less burnout. We provide strategic solutions that align with your goals and keep your team moving forward. Visit hpowersolutions.com and unlock your team's full potential without disrupting operations.
So you built teams for most of your 25 years in events. Often folks you worked with before because you know how they'll be. I love that in the intake form that you gave to me. What's your secret sauce for spotting great talent? And what are the red flags that say, I'm running away from this person?
You know, I love examples. So
Yeah.
if you don't mind, I'll
Stories.
just
I love it.
I'm just going to go with Mars because when I came to Mastermind, it was kind of like this creation that I had with my assistant where I was like, I want to work with Tony Robbins. And like a week later, my buddy's like, hey, you need to take this call, and then, suddenly it was just so serendipitous. It was really cool. So I go to Tampa and it's the first event I'm doing with them. And this girl with, this purple, thing in her hair comes walking in, this dye, and Puerto Rican. And she comes in and we start talking and she just had this energy. Like, I'm here to serve. I've got no motive except these people that we're about to help, and I'm going to have fun while I do it. And if you don't like that, then you're not cool. And, I'm not going to let it bug me. I'll just keep going. And her ability to just be made me go, I literally was like, I'm going to work with her forever.
Yeah.
I can tell. And then she's made me start dancing in the ballroom, which was not my thing. And she started pumping up music because we get, much more lively at the master, with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi crowd. So we're dancing and doing stuff. So she did that. She just kind of opened me up, but it was easy to identify her as someone who was going to be great. I didn't know what her skills were yet at all. It was her attitude.
Love
and
it.
her coachability. And it was like, hey, can you try this? Can you try this? And it's like, okay. And her respect, she has a military background, but she's also got 3 degrees. She's just got a lot of skills I had no idea about. And, it's been so easy to work with her because there's so much trust there because she recognized that I saw her and she's just now doing what she does. So when I mentioned being it, I have, people like Wesley Gu. I don't know if you know Wesley, but Wesley's another speaker coach and trainer. And I've, worked for Tony, years and years ago. I call him in when I need high level help with the heart and, that can weave in with the mind. But we've worked together for a decade and I go down the list of people I've just gone, hey, let's go, we'll do this again, different flavor. And it's always people that they're self-motivated. They have the energy and attitude of like, hey, let's get it done and problem solve instead of worry about the issues. They think proactively. It's like the 7 habits stuff, throw that in there. It's like, that's how you identify talent. And then the way you keep them happy is also important.
Right.
You reward them, you recognize them, you help them feel like their value is seen, and find their love language, and you make sure you give them that as well, so that they feel the love from the organization and for all the things they do. And that's how you keep great people around. And that's why I've got people that I've worked with for 20 years that I could call right now and say, let's do this. And they will drop everything not drop everything, but they'll say, yes, Robbie, let's go hang out.
Yeah.
So, I got a track record of just having help at the center of what I want to do.
So would you say, have you heard of the trust scale?
I don't think so.
So it's another 1 through 10, right? So the trust scale is 1, you don't trust anybody and it takes them a long time to earn your trust. And 10, you're like, I'll trust you, but if you screw me, you're dead to me. Like, all right. So I'm a 9. Like, I trust people right away, but if anything happens, you're out of my life for good.
Yeah.
Where do you fall in that? Because you work with a lot of people and you've got to put your reputation and, your brand in with other people. So where do you fall on the trust scale and how do people build trust with you?
I would say this is a hard one for me to answer because I'm different than I think most. And I think the reason I'm different is tough, just because I learned through so many mistakes that people can change.
Okay.
And as much as I want to take that, you burn me once, that's it mentality, I've made enough mistakes in my life to say that I made the same mistake often and didn't learn from it for many years as an addict, and that puts you into other things later. Because when you unravel addiction and you try to make sense of that and you find gratitude for actually going through the experience, you gain a level of compassion for others that's almost dangerous. Because it's very easy to get taken advantage of with your trust, because I literally will give people so many chances to be able to prove themselves, and I don't do it recklessly. I do it with measurement.
Yep.
And accountability, and a desire for improvement. But I think the trust part, if you burn me with like how you are as a person, your integrity, that's different, I think, than if you burn my trust because you didn't get it done, because you weren't ready yet, didn't have the skill yet, didn't have the wisdom or experience. I find a lot of compassion in those instances. When it's the integrity, it's like, I said this and then this happened. Like, that's definitely like, that's a big one for me. But I tend to have a lot of compassion for people that are growing, because I've been in the startup space, as an entrepreneur. I mean, we built a Y Combinator for coaches and consultants at Mastermind, essentially for startups, which means we've got to help people that are at the very baseline going, okay, mindset's your foundation. You got that part. Once you got that part, everything starts to happen. Your first business is very rarely your last one.
Right.
So it's time to fall forward, and so that's a tough journey if you don't have guidance.
Yeah. This is my third, my final, but I always tell entrepreneurs, you've got to have the stomach for it. That's all it is. You got to have the stomach for the ups and the downs. But let's talk about the longevity, right? Because you've been in business now for a really long time.
Yeah.
And you say being great at what you do, no matter what, fuels the future growth, as long as you keep your head on straight, even when, stuff hits the fan, right? And I really love that phrase. Can you share a story where things went sideways at an event, but your grounded approach turned it into a win?
Man, there's, and I like to think, I got a really good one if you want a fun story, but
fun is good.
It's also going to look self-promotional, but
okay.
this is a real story, So I was in San Jose, right across the street from the new not new at the time, it was the new 49er Stadium, and it's this conference center, and there's this massive escalator, like 3 floors. It's like full football field length to get up the thing. I'm about to speak, and we've got, people in the room, maybe 100 people in the room, and I'm about to go on stage. I can hear my video going. It's like a 3-minute video, and I'm waiting for this countdown of when it's Robbie, and Robbie comes up on stage and we start. Well, I hear this yelling in the room or outside the room. So I run out there, and someone had fallen on the escalator because they tried to take their walker onto the escalator, and they're stuck on this escalator halfway down.
Oh my God.
And I'm standing there next to my team, and I'm like, got one choice. I can run down the escalator, or I've got to run all the way down the stairs and jump over. And I'm like, I'm just going to go. So I'm wearing a 3-piece suit, and I go run it down this escalator, and I get down there, and there's this older gentleman, and I kind of lift him up and prop him forward, and we get him up to the top. And, he had just been kind of tumbling on his thing. So he was beat up, and we take him up to the top, and we roll over, and he's like, thank you. And, I hear my music ending, and I come in, and I say, hey, Dave, take care of him, and, he's going to take care of you. You're going to be okay. And then I run into the room. I run up on stage, And right as the thing goes up, I stand up there and I put my hands out like this, and I have blood all over my hands.
Oh my God.
I can't breathe and I'm sweating and I can't talk because I'm so out of breath from lifting this guy and running and doing all this. But my adrenaline was going. I wasn't even thinking. So I run up there and I'm going, it's not my blood, guys. So I'm like, this is the first impression they're getting of this guy who's supposed to help them with their entrepreneur journey, you know? And so I got into the event. I told them kind of basically what happened. Everything's okay. And we moved forward and stuff. The point of the story is this: that stuff has happened to me where something's going on in the background.
Yeah.
And if I, as the leader, first of all, if I make it a big scene, then everyone's going to make it a big scene. So let's say a problem comes up in the middle of of our business, and management and leaders and everyone's like zoning in and, yo, guys, look at this, what's going on? That attention drags away from the focus of what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So the hyper focus on issues, I learned as a speaker, you go very minimal, make it a positive situation as you can, and you move on, and people forget. They don't even realize. That guy, he walks in an hour later, he wouldn't get on the ambulance. They wouldn't let him go. He comes in his walker and he comes in, he sits up there and starts listening on the meeting and just starts participating. Nobody knew it was the guy, you know, because we didn't make it a big deal. We took great care of him. We tried. I promise my team took great care. But, you know, that's just an example of like, don't let the distractions really be a thing for everybody. Yeah. Because the more you make it a big thing, the more they're going to. And if it's not positive, or if it's not moving them in the right direction, you're now channeling attention away from value. And that's a very dangerous thing. Channeled attention right now is probably one of the biggest problems we have in society, because our attention is channeled by our social media, by what we're doing, you know, and so our brain isn't even ours right now.
Yeah.
So we've got to take that concept as leaders and go, I've got to help them keep their brains on the right track by not bringing up every problem and pointing at every detail. Like, have a system, man. Use EOS or get yourself straight.
You're right.
You've got a plan so people don't go home carrying work with them.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And it was funny. A small example of that is when we were at Mastermind, the lights went out for the afternoon. And we just were like, whatever, let's just keep going. And everyone just, we didn't focus on, oh my God, the lights were out. We can't have a PowerPoint. It was like,
I had a bunch of people that wanted me to go up there, do something. I'm like, John and Alec got this. We'll get everything set up. Then we'll make a joke about it and then we'll move on. How many times have I've had people die in the middle of my meeting. Like, they passed out on the side of the thing, and we had to move them to the back. And we literally not move them to the back. Like, we were helping them and had the ambulance come and did all that. But, at this point, the meeting was continuing. Yeah. And not that that's like the example I want to set, like, you got to take care of people. But the point is, like, you take care of the situation with the things and the people and the what you do, but you let it not affect the overall focus, because if we would have gone and ended, I know that what we did that day was valuable for the people that didn't know this individual and that wasn't part of their journey.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was true. And what they provided was amazing. I'm just pulling out the flip charts. I mean, that's all of it, right? I think it's, as the leader, you just got to plan for the unexpected and just be able to just go with it. For the most part. And then, you talked about like being completely plugged in. Over the last 3 weeks, I've gone digital free from 7 p.m. to bedtime. No phone, no internet, no iPad, nothing. And it's, oh my God, talk about being present. I'm going to take line dancing lessons. Like, I'm just talking on the phone with my friends and my kids. It's been amazing. I think more people that'd be a whole podcast, but loving that, right? Yeah. But you talk about today's workplace, and you mentioned it's tough with emotionally vacant people and a culture of excuses over accountability, right? We hear it all the time, right? How can leaders, especially our younger leaders, how can they foster better communication and use emotional intelligence to bridge that gap?
I'd love to take my own advice more on this type of stuff, to be honest. I try to be a great leader. I try to have great emotional intelligence. Those are things I think we should constantly be working on. And we should have someone that we check in with that holds us accountable. I would say I feel like the next generation still, because I'm 45, but I don't think I've ever taken off that like intensity. You know, I still feel like that next generation of leaders, I feel like I'm going to be going for a long time. So, you know, I'm positioning myself in places where I can be part of that future leadership conversation, because I want to inspire people to see how much we have control.
Yeah.
How much we get to control the experience we have in life and the reality we have inside our brain, and what story is being told, and what, you know, what movie is constantly running that plays our day out, because we wake up, we go to sleep, but that in between, that's something we have way more control than we let ourselves on. And the more I work around great people, the more I realize they get that.
Yeah.
They get that the mindset that I have and the way that I process things and the patterns of my communication and the things that I, you know, if I'm triggered, you know, what my triggers are, if I'm, you know, if trauma is leading me and how I've discovered that trauma, if I've tried to uproot it, like that type of work.
Yeah.
It's becoming what we like, it's becoming more mainstream, which I love. I feel like that has been, you know, on the sidelines is like woo woo almost.
Right.
And I think people are realizing like personal accountability to my own emotional intelligence and my own leadership to those that I have direct influence on. That's something we always should be working on. What book do you have at all times that you are reading about that? What podcast are you listening to? What step do you take during the day to measure yourself, like you're talking about in the morning, to do that? Like, I know personally, if I am not writing in my gratitude journal, my brain is on business 100% of the day.
Interesting.
That's what I know. I can go look. When did I not write? Oh, you were just focused on business because you didn't take 15 minutes to write down the things and people and, you know, that you're grateful for. Well, I'm not living in gratitude when I'm buzzing on work all day.
Right. Yeah. And that's, I think we all tend to kind of do that because we're all, you know, so many of us are just drivers. We're just driving. And I love the fact that you've got the gratitude journal. I think journaling is such a big thing. You know, journaling your journey all the way through. I'm reading Craig Siegel's book right now, and he talks a lot about the journals, and obviously Dean does a lot of that as well.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot to be said for that these are hard. These are competencies that are essential. So when people say, oh, you do soft skills, I'm like, oh, no, we don't. We do essential skills, because you can learn all that hard skills. But if you, as a person, are not a heart-centered leader with some sort of emotional intelligence, that's not soft. That's essential to keeping your people intention, creating that environment of work. So key.
So well said. I got to say that, you know, we made that goal of like after 7 o'clock turning those things off. And I think a bunch of people jumped in on that. I think it's so awesome that you've done it, you know, and that has been a follow through. I wonder what that would do for people if they realized they could turn their things off at 7 and just like really get their brain in the right place.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's been 3 weeks solid. And I've stuck to it. It's fine to call me, you know. So my son, like my younger son, we talk for hours now, like just on the phone. But it's shown me that I have time to clean the house. I have time to exercise. I have time for my friends, like that I didn't have time before, but I actually do. So it's been a super interesting thing. So I will let you know how it goes overall. But even for the team,
I'm excited to hear in March when you come back, because that's going to be fun. I'm excited to see how that is. So
all right,
how it though.
So we're going to do some quick, as a wrap up, some rapid fire fun. Okay. So answer quick as you can. All right. Baseball or stage, which teaches better leadership lessons?
Ooh, good question. I think it matters how much you get to do it. So I'm going to default to, for me, it's been stage, because my baseball career ended after high school. But I have so much experience like with that like feedback loop of reading the speech, hearing what they had to say, recorrecting it, going back and doing it again the next day. Same thing, 2 hours long, it wash, rinse, and repeat. And I made it authentic each time, where by the end, people, I was doing the same thing, but people felt like it was the first time. And that was the feedback, at least, that I got. So the reason the stage is because there's so much social interaction that you get to learn from, that you really learn people. And in baseball, I learned teammates, but I learned opposition, but I didn't learn like collective collaboration of all of it.
Gotcha.
And on the stage, I was teammates, with the crowd. I had my team in the back, like it was all kind of a mutual collaboration. So I got more from the stage. Love it.
Love it. All right. Worst event mishap that turned into your best story. I think we heard it, but I'm not sure.
Event mishap that turned into my best story. I mean, always, every single time where events, like we had one time we showed up and the entire hotel was closed. It was in like Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and it was like some hotel that we had booked like 4 months out. And so we run our marketing, we show up, we've got 2 events that day. There's no one at the hotel.
Oh my God.
So we go in and we literally I was like, let's get this done, team. The ballroom was lit because it was during the day, not the ballroom, the lobby. So we went in, and with flashlights, we went in and found chairs and found stuff and set it up in the lobby. And we got into the, the open door, and we let people in. People had no idea. They're like, oh, this is so neat. We're doing it in the lobby. I'm like, yeah, just doing it in the lobby, guys. By the evening, they had gotten the electricity turned on. We moved to the ballroom, but that was one of those experiences, because it was, we talk about it all the time, my buddy, my mentor and I, because we just were like, we'll figure it out. We grabbed a flip chart. We worked in the lobby instead of doing a full ballroom event.
I love that. I love that. What is one word to describe today's ideal leader?
Present.
Okay. All right. Being in the moment.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So if there's a leadership trait that's a superpower, what would your leadership trait be?
If of my own, or what I want to have?
Of your own.
That I feel like is one of my genius zones.
Yeah.
I would say vision. I have an uncanny way of seeing what will happen in the future, because I've had so many experiences that I can kind of gauge pretty well what's going to happen. And so I get a lot of that from people, like, man, that worked exactly like you said. Like, when working with a coaching student, and I'm like, just say it this way, raise your hand at this speed, stand at this point, like, it's not that robotic, our coaching. But when I get to a point where I'm like, just hear me out on this, I can see the crowd, I can see the response. As long as I know the audience and I know the presenter, I can kind of have a pretty good, decent idea of how things are going to land for them.
That's I love fun. It. If there's one book or tool besides People Profit, of course, what is one book or tool that every leader needs?
One book or tool that every leader needs. I would say, for me, if I were to give a leader a book and say, go figure out leadership, I'd probably start with the 4 Agreements.
I love that.
Not really a leadership book, but it's like, you get these agreements right.
Yeah.
Then suddenly you don't need a big structure to tell you what to do and have rules and responsibilities. You literally just take action based on a value system that you accept. And when people behave that way, man, it's fun when people's value system is so easy that they're just good all the time. I have people like that all around me that, like, they will excel at everything they ever do. And when they fail, they turn it into some magical thing.
I love that. That's one of my favorite books. Absolutely. So, wrapping this up just real quickly, what's one actual takeaway that you'd like to give to our listeners?
Gratitude is a feeling that we can produce by just saying, I am grateful. And it's similar to the love chemical. And so when we get that rushing through our body, we have a different experience. And I found, even in the hardest times in my life, if I could find gratitude, that I could still stimulate the feeling of that made my experience better. So live with gratitude as a speaker. Start with that. Start with walking out and going, I cannot believe I get this opportunity to have people listen to me.
I love that.
Find that much gratitude. Everything's going to go well from there.
Amazing. Amazing. Robbie, this has just been an absolute blast, full of wisdom. Love your stories. I have this visual of the escalator story now. We've had a few laughs along the way. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and being open with our audience, because I think that's really important. A lot of people see people like yourself that super successful and think, well, that was easy for them. And I love when people are just share that the journey isn't always easy. Loved your tips on leading with clarity, confidence, and just your heart you're so heart-centered. So if our listeners are fired up and they want to learn more about you, where can they contact you?
They can follow me on social media. I kind of made a promise to myself that I would at least start putting some of my old stuff out, because I haven't really been active for a few years. But social media, the Robbie Law. And it's pretty much, my LinkedIn, my Facebook, my YouTube, my Instagram, all that. It's the Robbie Law, ROBBIE.
Love it. We'll make sure we put the link down below as well. So thank you so much for being on our show today. Really appreciate it.
For sure. Thank you. I always appreciate it, Dr. Coker.
If today's chat resonated, dive deeper with my book, People Profit, and also to head over to humanpowersolutions.com for more talent acquisition and employee development. Thank you for tuning into the People Profit podcast. Remember, great leaders don't just build teams, they build fun, thriving cultures. And so if you liked and enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share so other people can experience the wisdom of people like Dr. Robbie Law. Just kidding. Until next time, keep investing in your people. Thanks, everyone.
Now, I want to say one thing before you hit end the recording. You can stitch this in if you like, okay?
Yeah.
I want to say thank you for the value that you bring. The value of a mastermind is the people. And I'm so grateful that you're there. So thank you for all the value that you bring. Every time you open your mouth, raise your hand, press forward, we feel challenged because we want to provide the greatest experience for you. And we feel value when you participate. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Awesome.
Sure.
All right.
Take care.
I appreciate it, Robbie. We'll talk to you soon.
We'll see you.
That's a wrap on this episode of the People Profit Podcast. If you found a nugget of wisdom or even just a spark of inspiration, share the love, subscribe, leave us a review, and pass the episode along to a colleague who's ready to build a people-first culture. Big thanks to our sponsor, Human Power Solutions, for championing workplace where humans thrive and profits rise. Want to learn how they can energize your team? Head over to hpowersolutions.com to get started. I'm Sandra Coker, reminding you that when you invest in people, you invest in profit. See you next time.